The doom weighed heavier as the plague attacked the wretched farm folk and gained mastery within the city's walls. The fever first inflamed the intestines. Symptoms were short breath and flushing skin. The tongue was furred and swollen. The mouth gaped open, parched by the hot wind, straining to gulp the suffocating air. Bedclothes and coverings of any kind were unendurable. Upon the ground they placed their bony bodies, but the earth gave no relief and gained their fevered heat. Unchecked and uncontrolled, the savage plague broke out among the doctors. Their own skill disqualified their owners. Why, the more closely and faithfully men serve the sick, the rapider their road to doom. As hope of safety fades, and they foresee the end of the disease is death, they indulge their lusts, not caring what might help, since nothing helps. By fountains, wells, brooks, rivers, everywhere they huddle unashamed. Their thirst is quenched only with life, so gross and bloated then, that many cannot rise and die right in the water. Others drink it all the same, finding their loathsome beds unbearable. Poor wretches, they jump out, or if too weak to stand, roll to the floor. Each flees from home, for every home seems fatal. Since the cause lies hid, the yards and garrets bear the guilt. You could have seen them drifting half alive along the streets, while they had strength to stand, and others weeping, lying on the ground, their tired eyes turning in a last appeal, their arms stretched starwards to the hanging sky. Here, there, each breathes his last, were caught to die. What heart had I? Was it not natural to loathe my life and long to join my own? Wherever my gaze turned, the people lay as rotten apples fall from swaying boughs, or acorns under oaks that storms have tossed. You see that temple soaring high above its sweeping flight of steps. Jove's shrine it is. Who did not offer on the altars there incense in vain? How often while they prayed, husband for wife, father for son, they breathed their last in that inexorable shrine, hands holding still some incense unconsumed. How often too inside the temple, while the priest intoned and poured the holy wine between the horns, before the knife could strike, the bulls dropped dead. When I made sacrifice to Jove for my own self, my fatherland, and my 3 sons, the victim raised its voice, a voice of doom, and suddenly collapsed with never a blow. And when the blood was let, its feeble trickle barely stained the blade. The entrails too, diseased, had lost the signs of truth, the warnings of the gods. The plague had penetrated to the inmost parts. Bodies I saw thrown by the temple doors, before the altars even, to put the gods to greater shame. Some hanged themselves, and fled by death the fear of death, and called their fate that came uncalled. Corpses were never given a proper funeral, too many biers to jostle through the gates. Either they lay unburied, or were heaped on high-raised pyres unhonored. Now all reverence was lost. They fought for pyres, used other people's flames. No one was left to mourn. Unwept, unwailed, ghosts, old men, youths, brides, mothers, drifted round, and timber failed for fires, for graves the ground. Distraught by such a whirling storm of woes, I cried, Great Jove, unless it's but a lie that thou didst hold Aegina in thine arms, and thou, Almighty Father, art ashamed to be my parent, give my people back to me, or send me to the grave myself. Thunder and lightning gave the gods assent. I accept the signs, I said, and may they mark thy grace. I take the omen as thy pledge. It chanced that close at hand there stood an oak, Jove's sacred tree, a special spreading tree, sprung from Dodona's seed. Here, hard at work, my eyes fell on an endless train of ants, huge loads in tiny mouths, all following their private path across the wrinkled bark. In wonder at their numbers, grant, I said, thou best of sires, so many citizens to me, and stock again my empty walls. The tall oak trembled. In the still, calm air the branches swayed and rustled. Terror-struck I shuddered, hair on end, and yet I kissed the ground, the oak. I'd not admit my hopes, even so I hoped, and wishes warmed my heart. Night came, our care-worn frames were lapped in sleep. Before my eyes the same oak seemed to stand, with boughs as many, on the boughs as many insects, and trembling as before, it shook the gleaming column to the field below. And suddenly the creatures grew and grew, larger and larger, rising from the ground. They stood erect, they shed their many legs, their leanness and their blackness, and assumed a human shape. Sleep left me. As I awoke, I scorned my dream and grumbled at the gods who gave no help. But from the palace came a rumbling roar, men's voices, as I thought, long unfamiliar. I suppose this too was in my dream, when Telamon rushed in, threw the door wide, and "Father," he burst out, "a sight beyond our hopes, beyond belief, come out." And out I went, and there I saw and recognized the men, for all the world just as I'd dreamt. They greeted me as king. I paid my vows to Jove, and to my new subjects shared out my city in the lands left vacant by their former husbandmen. I call them Myrmidons, a name to tell in truth their origin. Their build you saw, their traits they keep, a thrifty, toiling lot, grasping their gains and hoarding what they've got. These, matched in mind and years, will follow you to war, when the east wind that brought you here so happily, that wind had brought them there, changes, and homeward from the south blows fair. So with their talk and tales the livelong day was occupied. The light's last lingering hours were given to feasting, and the night to sleep. The golden sun had spread his shining beams, and still the east wind blew and checked their sails.